Therefore, recently, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, he trooped to the United States of America, the UN headquarters in New York to be precise, to ask of what you call slavery reparations. And I've told you that this particular slavery reparations, it is something. Something John Dramani Mahama model to him say, okay, I brought from by slavery, good never be brainy and coffee because of the move to Africa, move to crew into Yan Shekra, because of that, the white post really help us. Now, except Yosikana is more like a compensation for all those century-old slavery, of course. Now, and no, Omuko voting. Who says certain countries really did not vote for or against. And one of those countries was the UK. The UK basically abstained from the vote. So the UK actually did not vote at all. So their stance on in or against, we don't know. But clearly, from one of a more conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, Nigeria or British Nigerian or in same year Babe Tuja a whole and a month we start take us. Now in here, Kemi Edit Tuja say UK should have voted against Ghana's slavery resolution. This is Kemi Badenoch saying the slavery reparation resolution they call it is nonsense and UK should not have abstained at all. UK shouldn't have said, oh, we are abstaining for what? What the UK should have done was basically simple. They should have been bold enough to say, we are not voting for this crap. Now, what is the reason why Kemi Badenoch, or this same way Tuja, well, very soon, but then let's put this on the screens because Kemi Badenoch actually explained the reason why she doesn't think it's a good idea for Ghana after almost 300 or so years, slavery need tremuno, and then today you guys control your gold, your oil, and everything. Yes, till you guys are poor. It's because leaders no any Musuman as black people and until I'm more brain. Kemi a posti we share the whole screens also. I say Russia, China, and Iran vote with others to demand trillions in reparations from the UK's taxpayers and Labour government abstain. Into a part say some resolution Ghana for the call Russia for a joining China for a joining Iran for a joining say UK government they should pay Africa trillions of taxpayers' money because they came to do slavery. And I said, the Labour government, and the opposition, Labour government, they voting to abstain. It is mind blowing. What they should have done was to vote against it. I said, British led the fight to end slavery. And I said, British for and leading the fight to end slavery. Why didn't Starmer, which is Keir Starmer, representative, vote against this? Ignorance or cowardice? We shouldn't be paying for a crime we help eradicate and still fight today. And I say, not buying an opposition or more government, or more holding power. No, vote. So okay, we are abstaining. It is not. They should have voted against it because British why come once somebody slavery and you no slavery. The Portuguese were part, France were part, Spanish were the Spain or the Spanish people were part. All these countries were what? Basically colonizing other countries and other continents. What are you voting against? So British 4 years, so and I said your slavery. They help fight against this slavery. They help abolish this slavery. It's a Deben Pana. Ghana President John Dramani Mahama. Okay, so this was in response with Greg Simpson in some of the trust. The United Nations votes to insist the Britain should pay for slavery reparations. African Union pushed a resolution demanding colonial powers offer compensation for slavery. And Kemi Badenoch, said, this is pure nuts. This is what pure nuts. Now, even apart from that, so there's been many reactions. To say yes, what Kemi and Co or Modi Tujan, it makes sense because Africa no except you for how long you gain independence. So why are we still blaming the white man? Shahasi, if Ben Obese Jekti, our MP, believe UK, or say Britain should not pay reparations. Into Onukra or black. Or British African or no party said British should not pay for reparations. So we abstain from voting against paying reparations for the transatlantic slave trade in yet another egregious example of this Labour government desperate attempt to curry favor. the transatlantic slave trade was a deplorable and horrific period of its history, but it was just that history. I vehemently disagree with these calls. If we are to be held to account by the UN, so too should those tribes who participated in capturing and selling their enemies and rivals into slavery in exchange for trade, wealth, and weapons. It is our MP on also being UK government or part say UK government our cast more abstaining crowd on no dream one tia say. See be hold the UK accountable sa muna mudi slavery e buy muna mu tonton nipa dia. Ene yenko biso 2482. Yenko bisa yana. Yenko bisa Cape Coast hene. Sa slaves na anamu kokun na mudi fence omo oni omo kun udi omo sunkunima. Inkwa na mochichi omo no. Muton ana mochichi omo no. Mu via mukoton muton ma brofo no. Se bi broni no mba ha keke embefa ebibifo. Mwa na moton mom. Nti ye ka ne sadia ene yen tackle otunfo setutu. Yen tackle Minshia Palace. Yen tackle Gan Adang before. Yen tackle Yana. Yen tackle Ahemfo. Any ethnic groups are mutunton nipa to also get something in exchange from the Europeans. Yentimi Castle British in Fonkwan and taking the blame. Hell no. Hell no. It will not go on. So this is exactly what is really going on. I'm no say no. I'm going to be reacting to. But then far from that, one of the reactions, of course, so was when a video interview, I think it's a GB News, and also a broadcasting network, a UK almost no, they had an interview with one of the representatives of Mupah. Say yes, indeed, slave trading, of course, but for us to sit down and say, so slavery, of course, no. It doesn't make sense. Now, you share this bit of a video. I think just a short one. Babaka, better because there are various reactions are back in regards to this particular in Sema course about the slavery reparations. I mean, say you know, a hot topic.
It seems extraordinary that Britain abstained on this.
No, absolutely. I think that the UK needs to be more confident when it comes to the pioneering humanitarian role that it played in suppressing the slave trade. The integral part of those efforts was played by the Royal Navy, the West African Squadron, at significant economic and human cost. Tom, as you know, many of the vessels that the Royal Navy's West African Squadron were using were nowhere near as sophisticated and dynamic as those slave ships which were involved in the transatlantic slave trade. And Britain also played an integral part in putting pressure in terms of closing down the slave markets, the Arab-owned slave markets in Zanzibar. So I think that the UK actually, of course, the UK played a part and participated in the slave trade, but it played also an integral part in suppressing the slave trade. And they've had figures such as William Wilberforce, a fantastic humanitarian who played such a pivotal part in ultimately encouraging the UK to suppress the slave trade and to put to an end.
Rakib, is this debate ever going to go away? Are reparations ever going to be paid? Or are we just going to carry on talking about it?
Well, I think that it rears its ugly head quite frequently nowadays, Dawn. I find it a very complex debate, and many people look to simplify it. I think that what's very clear here is that we need to have a very serious debate when it comes to post-independence nation states who have national sovereignty. To what extent do they want to take responsibility for their own forms of governance? I think that's very important. Now we can have a debate.
Okay, so in summer a year this particular MP no patch says, see, Africa, you've gained independence. Ghana next year be 70 years. So are you still going to blame us for your own woes? You guys still have gold. In fact, Ghana is the largest producer of gold here in Africa, and even I think the world also. So why are you guys still blaming Bruni for no these schools any more constitution or didn't be why are the Ghanaians still blaming the British people for slavery? Regardless, there's going to be a debate. But then here pre-slavery era, before the slavery era, during the slavery era, and also post-slavery era, after the slavery era. But regardless, New Yorker, there are some people who hold defense this particular argument, and I say they also second to this argument. Say Africans don't deserve any slave. Now let me give you an example. Fanny say America for any UK for or matam $1 billion, I say $20 billion. I'm Ghana say the slavery now course so 300 or 400 years ago, no, or more patch, so they are paying reparations, more like compensation. Do you think these politicians will use their money to build Ghana or not? I'm telling you, Ghana will still be the same. So the issue is not about the money or the resources. The issue is about management and serious people who will be in charge. And you turn a video here, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, you went to table this particular resolution. Some black Americans were saying loud and clear, said, Mahama, you and the people of Ghana and the Ashanti Kingdom, you can't sell us twice because yes, you turn your back and come and tell us for selling this to the white man. It doesn't make sense. In this video, you see a demonstration right in the face of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Or this resolution PM UN headquarters. Mind you, this particular demonstration was just outside the UN headquarters. Video about
y'all was complicit. You don't get to sell us twice. Kwame Ansa was the chief that worked with the Portuguese to build Elmina Castle in the slave dungeon. You don't get to get reparations on the people you sold. Go home. Go home. These are black American ancestors. The Ghanaians are complicit in slavery. They worked with the white supremacists that enslaved us on this land. You don't give reparations for a business deal gone bad.
What y'all know about Order My Steps?
Order My Steps?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was some black Americans and now a modern